Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session of PEEE. In the previous session, we have completed parallel resonance and its graphical representation, quality factor, its equation, then comparison in between series and parallel resonance, and uh, we have solved two numericals based on the resonance as well as on Q factor. Okay. So this is parallel resonance condition, then the frequency equation Fr is equal to 1 upon 2 pi under root 1 upon LC minus R square by L square. Then we have seen these parameters in the parallel resonance, like impedance at resonance. So we know that the dynamic impedance is Z is equal to L upon RC, and that is high at the time of resonance. And so that due to high impedance, the current is less. Okay, so this is, you can see, at frequency, at resonant frequency, we have maximum impedance and so that minimum current. This is susceptance versus frequency curve, that is also completed. Then we have seen the Q factor. This is the equation of Q factor, 1 upon R under root L by C. Also you can write this equation XL by R or XC by R. These are some point of comparison in between series and parallel circuit when it is under resonance. Then we have completed these two numericals. Okay. Today we will cover the last numerical of the chapter, and then after we will start new chapter. So you can see the data. An RLC series circuit has resistance is equal to 2.5 ohm, C capacitor is equal to 100 microfarad, and a variable inductance. So inductance value is not given. The applied voltage is 50 volt at 800 radian per second. the inductance is varied till the voltage across resistance is maximum. Under this condition, find the value of inductance, Q factor, current, voltage across resistance, capacitance, and inductance. So first of all, you can see series RLC circuit is given. Resistance is given 2.5 ohm. Then capacitor is given 100 microfarad. Applied voltage is also given 50 volt, and the frequency it is omega is given actually radian per second. Omega is equal to 800 radian per second. Okay. We have to find the value of inductance, Q factor. If you able to find the inductance value, you can use this equation to find the Q factor as well. 1 by R. R is already given, square root of L upon C, right? Then current, voltage across resistance, capacitance, and inductance. So let us see how we can find it. So in series resonance circuit, the voltage across resistance is maximum at the resonance condition only, and so that supply voltage is given 50 volt over here. Okay, so we know the equation of resonant frequency 1 upon 2 pi root LC. Okay, that is F. So I can write this equation like in angular velocity form, omega r, because omega r is 2 pi f only. So omega r is equal to 1 upon root LC. So you can, we have to find L. So you can take L on one side. So I will get this equation. L is equal to 1 upon omega r square into C. So this is given 800. C is 100 microfarad. So I will get 0.01563. Okay. Now either you can use this equation omega r L upon capital R for the quality factor, or you can also use this equation as I told you. In both the case you will get the same answer. At resonance, we know XL and XC is not present because they are equal and opposite, so they are going to cancel their effect, and that's why the current is given by simply V upon R. So 50 upon 2.5 is 20 ampere. So that is our current at the resonance. And the fourth one that we have to find out, voltage across resistance, capacitance, and inductance. So voltage across resistance is given by IR into R. Voltage across inductor is given by IR into XL, and across capacitance it is IR into XC. But XL and XC is not given. So yes, you can find XL first based on 2 pi FL. XL is equal to 2 pi FL. Here F you have to use the resonant frequency, okay, or you can say omega R into L. So what you are getting, And if you do not want to go with this equation, you already calculated your quality factor directly, you can use Q into V. Okay, you will get the same answer because of resonance condition, because you can see XL and XC both are same under resonance, right? And that's why voltage across inductor or voltage across capacitor will remain same only. Okay, so this is all about chapter number 3. So let me just tell you the highlight or overall summary of the chapter. So this is the chapter which we have completed, fundamental of AC circuit, in which from starting to end we have completed all this topic with numericals. You can see generation of alternating voltage and current. We have started with the very basic DC and AC waveform, sinusoidal waveform, its advantages, its generation, then the terminologies associated with sine function like cycle, then amplitude, frequency, form factor, RMS value, then average value, right? Phase difference, what is out of phase, what is in phase, different methods to find RMS and average value, its numericals. Then we have seen the vector addition or representation of sinusoidal quantity through phasor. Okay, in that we have seen the phasor representation, different methods of vector addition and subtraction, its numericals. Okay, then we have seen the behavior of the circuit when the different components are present, like resistance, inductance, capacitance, its combinations in series as well as in parallel. Okay, we have seen the phase relation in between voltage and current, what is the power output in that power waveform. So many things we have discussed over here. Also we have done some numericals based on this. Okay, different types of powers, active, reactive, apparent power, impedance triangle, admittance triangle, power factor and its significance. Okay, all these circuits, series RL, series RLC, RC, right? And then finally we have seen some parallel circuits, methods to solve the parallel circuit, like phasor method, phasor algebra, admittance, impedance method. Okay, and then at last we have seen resonance in series and parallel with numericals, right? So yes, finally AC is done. So today we are going to start one new chapter, and that is chapter number 7 from your MU syllabus. Okay, so chapter number 7 is semiconductor diodes. Semiconductor diodes. Okay, in this chapter we are going to discuss about so many different types of diodes. Okay, so we will start from symbol and construction of a simple diode, that is PN junction diode. PN junction diode. Then its operating characteristic in forward as well as in reverse bias condition. Then we will see applications of PN junction diode like switch, clipper, clamper and rectifier. Okay. And then after we will move towards some special purpose diodes, like you can see the name Zener diode, optical diode, like LED, photodiode, laser diode, 7-segment display, okay, varactor diode, Schottky diode, pin diode, tunnel diode, and step recovery diode. We'll see the working, construction, and characteristic about all this. So first of all, uh, we will start with PN junction diode. So let me just give you the brief idea of semiconductor devices. I hope all of you know about this. Yes, I'm not going in depth. Actually, you have chapter. I don't know whether it has been started or not, but you have to study the semiconductor material, right? I think it's chapter number 6. So basically, we have 3 different materials over here. You can see insulator, semiconductor, and conductor. In conductor, there is no any band gap, so it can allow the current in either of the direction. In insulator, we have large band gap in between conduction and valence band, right? So it cannot allow the current to pass through it in any direction. But in valence, in case of semiconductor, we have small band gap is available. So if you able to break this by providing some external potential, okay, then it can allow the current in one particular direction, right? So we have to discuss about this semiconductors. Most commonly we are going to use silicon and germanium. Okay, so what is the characteristics? First of all, in case of semiconductor material, it's in its outer, here you can see in outer orbit we have 4 valence electrons. Similarly, in case of germanium also you can see in the uh, outer orbit we have 4 valence electrons. Okay, so if electrons gains enough thermal energy like 1.1 electron volt for silicon and zero point 0.7 electron volt for germanium, it may break the covalent bond and becomes free electron of negative charge, while leaving a vacancy or hole of positive charge, right? So in the electric field, a free electron may move to new location to fill hole there, and both such electrons and holes contribute to electric conduction. And this is known as intrinsic semiconductor, or we can say pure semiconductor without any impurity. So at room temperature, relatively few electrons gain such energy to become free, and overall the conductivity is low. So for pure semiconductor or intrinsic semiconductor, conductivity is low. If you want to increase the conductivity, you have to use some doping. Doping means you can use some trivalent and pentavalent atom. You can insert that atom into the intrinsic semiconductor and you can make it extrinsic semiconductor in order to increase its conductivity. So here we have some semiconductor devices. You can see list of semiconductor devices. But as I told you, more commonly we are using this to silicon as well as germanium. So conductivity can be improved by doping. Doping is the process of adding impurity element with either 3 or 5 valence electrons. If 3 electrons in the valence band is there, it is known as trivalent atom, and if 5 valence electrons are there, then it is known as pentavalent atom. Okay, and if you are adding this kind of doping impurity, then that material is known as extrinsic semiconductor, remember, or impure semiconductor, right? So basically we have p-type and n-type semiconductor are there. When we can say n-type and when we can say p-type. So when small amount of pentavalent atom is added, like phosphorus or arsenic, a silicon atom is in the lattice may be replaced by donor atom with 4 of its valence electron, forming the covalent bond and 1 extra free electron. Because as I told you, if this is your silicon atom, then in its outer orbit it has 4 electrons, right? And when you are going to add one pentavalent atom in this, in its outer orbit, it has 5 electrons. That means 4 electrons makes the covalent bond with this, but one electron remains free. One electron remains free. That electron it can give to anyone, and that's why it is known as donor atom, right? If we look at the p-type semiconductor, then here when small amount of trivalent atom like boron or aluminum is added, a silicon atom in the lattice may be replaced by acceptor atom with only 3 valence electron. So these 3 electrons forming 3 covalent bond. So again, if this is silicon atom, right? Here we have 4 valence electron of silicon, 4 valence electron of silicon, and when you are going to add trivalent atom in this, then 3 electrons of silicon occupies with these electrons, and it can make the covalent bond over here. Okay, it can make the covalent bond over here. But what about the last one? Because boron atom that you have added has only 3 electrons. So it will create one whole pair over here, one hole over here. Now, if any free electron is there, it can accept that. Okay, over here. Suppose here one free electron and it is having some energy and it is moving in this direction. Okay, if it is coming and fill this pair, that means it can accept one electron because of deficiency of electron over here, and that's why it is known as acceptor atom, right? So this, in this way we have n and p type of semiconductors. So here you can see configuration of this is for p type. We have pentavalent atom. You can see 4 electrons out of plus 5, 4 is already occupied and this one is free. Okay, similarly in n type you can see plus 3, so all 3 have occupied with the silicon atom, and here we have deficiency of electron or one vacancy for the electron, right? So this is a brief idea of semiconductor device. Now let us start with PN junction diode. So this is the definition: an electronic component made of semiconductor material that allows current conduction of current in only one direction, and that is termed as diode. Okay, so as I told you, it can allow the current in one direction only. it is a two-terminal device normally formed by fusing P and N type semiconductor materials, each having majority and minority carriers, each having majority and minority carriers. Okay, so you can see the symbol of diode. It is represented like this. This is anode terminal and this is cathode terminal. Okay, this is P side and this is N side. Now, construction of the diode. A diode in its fundamental form is a PN junction device. PN junction device through which current flows when the proper forward potential is applied. The P and N type semiconductor material must be carefully combined so that two must have controlled quantity of donor and acceptor impurities. In its basic form, only N type is the screen. I can't understand. Screen is not changing from my side. What is this? Only N type is the screen means?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
That means what you are teaching and what's on the screen is different. The screen is showing us to say N-type semiconductor. That is what is on the screen.
Only one PPT is open, and that is this one. Do you see construction of diode on the screen?
No, we can't see.
And what about others? Please reply in the chat box or even in, you can unmute also. What about others? Do you see everyone? Do you see the construction of diode on the screen?
N-type semiconductor.
No. Okay, let me share it again. Now is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Is it construction of diode now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yes, so I'm talking about this symbol of diode and definition that an electronic component made of semiconductor material that allows conduction of current in only one direction. How it can allow the current in one direction, that we will see in its working and operation. Okay. It's a two-terminal device normally formed by P and N type of semiconductor material, each having majority and minority carriers. Basically, in N type semiconductor, the majority charge carrier is electrons and minorities are hole. In case of P type semiconductor material, majority charge carriers are hole and minority carriers are electron. This is the symbol of diode. This terminal is anode and you can find this vertical line. So on vertical line, this terminal is cathode, or even you can represent it like P and N. Okay. Now, construction of the diode. So diode in its fundamental form is a PN junction device through which current flow when proper forward potential is applied. So P and N type semiconductor materials must be carefully combined so that two must have control quantity of the donor and acceptor impurities. So here you can see the construction. First of all, what we have to do, you can just take one silicon wafer like this, or you can take the germanium wafer, that is our intrinsic semiconductor, and then in order to improve the conductivity, I'm going to add some impurities like donor and acceptor, okay, or pentavalent and trivalent impurities. So here in the n-type region you are going to add, and here also you are going to add some impurities, right? So in this I'm going to add here pentavalent. So we have extra electrons are present in the n-type region, and here I'm going to add the trivalent impurities. So we have sorry for the interruption, it was disconnected due to connection issues. Yes, so in this region we are going to add trivalent impurities, and here we are going to use pentavalent atoms. Okay, number of pentavalent atoms. So one pentavalent atom has one free electron. Okay, so similarly, if you are adding more and more number of atoms over here, then we have number of free electrons on the N region. So these are my majority charge carriers. Electrons are majority charge carriers in N. And over here we have deficiency of electron, that means the presence of hole are there, right? So majority charge carriers are hole. So you can see this positive sign, this is for hole, and this black dots are electron. It doesn't mean that in n-type region we do not have any kind of holes. Here also holes are there, but that is very minimum, and so that we can say that are minority carriers. Similarly, in p-type region electrons are also there, but that is also very less, and that is termed as minority carriers in p region. Here we have metal contacts at which you can connect the supply. So right now what happened, let us try to understand the construction first. Yes, this is known as junction. Okay, this line is known as junction. Now in its basic form, single silicon or germanium wafer is taken, which is doped with pentavalent and trivalent impurities in its two halves. P region denotes doping of trivalent impurity, and N region denotes the doping of pentavalent impurity, or simply we can merge separate P and N type material in order to form the semiconductor device. Okay, that you can see in this figure also, as I told you. Here, as we can see, a p-type semiconductor material is merged with n-type semiconductor material that forms a junction. This junction is known as p-n junction. At opposite end, two metal contacts are attached, and that is combinedly known as p-n junction diode. So the whole figure is known as p-n junction diode, including these two metal contacts, okay, on both the sides. The p-type material holds holes as its majority carrier and electrons as its minority carrier. As against The n-type material has electrons as its majority carrier and holes as its minority carrier. Now PN junction is nothing but the layer of immobile ions, which is known as depletion region or depletion layer. Okay, so here we have immobile ions. So what is immobile ions? So let me tell you one thing. See, normally what happen in the n region, we have number of electrons, right? Now this electrons having its own kinetic energy, and each and every electron has not the same kinetic energy. Some electrons have more kinetic energy, some electrons have less kinetic energy. So the electrons which has more kinetic energy, that electrons are moving from n to p region and try to fill this space, because here so many holes are there. So suppose one electron is coming from this and it is going to fill this space over here. Similarly, second electrons come over here and it is going to fill this space, right? I'm just going to explain that how it is immobile. So right now it is mobile, means it can move in any direction, right? So now tell me one thing, if this electron is moving, everyone is agree that electron is carrying negative charge with it. So if it is moving from one place to another place, definitely this negative charge is also moving. So if this electron is coming from n to p region, definitely after some time here it will develop the negative potential, because those electrons who is transferred from n to p, they will carry the negative charge with it. One more thing, if one electron is coming from n to p region, then now this electron is not there in n region because it is already transferred to p. So what happened? Here deficiency of electron is created, means it will create one hole in n type region. That means hole is having positive charge. So here positive potential is developed. So what happened? The movement of electron is continue till the level of equilibrium is coming, because then after what happened, once the negative charge is developed over here, now suppose one more electron is trying to come on this side, what happened? Electron is having negative polarity, and here also negative polarity is developed. So negative will repel each other or not? Yes. So this electron, once electron will try to come on this side, due to this negative polarity, it will not allow to come. So again, it will repel. So now at the equilibrium state, ions will remain steady and it will look like this. It will look like this. See, on this side, number of electrons are coming from n region to p region. And due to this, here holes are going to be created. Okay. On this side negative polarity, and here it is positive polarity, and these all are the immobile ions. Now these all are immobile ions, and that region is known as depletion layer or depletion region. So when proper potential is provided, then conducting and non-conducting state is noticed in it. Okay. Now working of diode. So diode can work, means operation of diode is divided into this three mode: unbiased condition, forward bias condition, and reverse bias condition. Okay, unbiased, forward bias, and reverse bias condition. So let us see first of all unbiased. See, from this figure you can understand the movement of electrons. Right now you can see this is our p-type and n-type region. Now if you see inside of it, it will look like this. This is my silicon wafer. consider this is silicon wafer. Okay, in n type, here you can see I have added one atom of pentavalent and one atom of trivalent impurity. Okay, now you can see this yellow one is for silicon electron, and pink one is our pentavalent atom electron, right? So this is one covalent bond, this is another covalent bond, third covalent bond, and this is fourth covalent bond. That means 4 electrons already occupied, but this is free, this electron is free still, right? You can say this electron is free and it has tendency to move. On the p type, you can see 3 covalent bonds are completed, this one and this one, but here we do not have any electron. That means at this place one hole is created. Now if this electron is moving and if it is coming over here, right, it will complete this place, it will complete this place. But if electron come over here, then definitely it will create the hole on in this case, right? So in this way, if number of electrons are coming, this is only for one atom, you have added many more atoms in this, so number of electrons are coming over here, so that here negative potential is developed, and in this case it is positive potential is developed. Understood, everyone? Yes or no? Okay. So let us see the 3 different conditions: unbiased, forward bias, and reverse bias. So in unbiased case, we are not going to apply any electric potential external supply, right? So when no any external potential or voltage is provided to the device, then it is known as unbiased condition of diode. So here you can see I'm not going to supply any voltage. Here p-type material is fused with an n-type material, and this fusion creates the junction. Means due to the diffusion process, electrons are moving from n to p region, and it will create the depletion region of this width. So when no voltage is applied across the diode, then majority charge carriers, that is holes from p side and electrons from n side, gets combined with each other at the junction, and these charge carriers on combining generate immobile ions. As I told you, these all are the immobile ions, okay, that depletes across the junction. Due to this depletion region is formed at the junction, it is to be noted here that flow of charge carriers across cross-section area is known as diffusion, and hence the current at no bias condition is known as diffusion current, because due to the movement of electron, the small current is flowing, and that is known as diffusion current. Potential different at depletion region generates an electric field across it, obviously, because it will generate negative and positive potential, right? So in this direction, it will create electric field. So field intensity you can find over here, and due to this electric field, no any other movement of majority charge carriers are allowed, and that's why it is known as immobile ions. So depletion region width is fixed. The potential at the depletion region takes as a barrier for further movement and hence known as barrier or built-in potential. So depending on the material you are going to select, here we have this potential is not there, that is known as barrier potential. Remember, for silicon, this barrier potential is 0.7 volt, and for germanium, this barrier potential is 0.3 volt. 0.3 volt. However, still minority carrier drifts across the depletion region and negligible current flows. This very small current due to minority carriers is known as drift current. Now what happen if I connect the supply? So now you can see in this two metal contact, I'm going to connect the external supply. You can connect the supply by two ways. First, as here it is connected, you can connect the positive polarity with P and negative polarity of the supply with N. If you connect your voltage source like this, it is known as forward bias condition. So in the forward bias condition, P side of device is connected with the positive terminal of supply and N side is connected with the negative battery potential. Okay, and this is known as forward bias. So when forward biasing is applied, the holes in the P side experiences a repulsive force from the positive terminal, and similarly electrons experiences the repulsion from the negative terminal of supply provided. What is the meaning of this? You can see over here. Tell me, on p-type region, majority charge carriers are holes that is having positive charge, right? And that terminal is connected with the positive polarity. That terminal is connected with the positive polarity. So what happened? Positive charge over here and positive polarity both are going to repel each other. So ultimately, these all holes move on this direction, left right direction. Similarly, on the n-type region, this is negative and this all are the electrons, so that is also having negative charge. So all the electrons are pushed away in this direction. So ultimately what happens? The width of this depletion region is going to be reduced as you are increasing the voltage level, right? In other words, we can say previously, as I told you, in the unbiased condition, this is the polarity that is developed in the depletion region, and due to this, the electric field intensity develops on this direction. And the supply you are going to connect is just opposite to this polarity, and that will create the field intensity in this direction, right? So what happened? These are cancel out each other. Okay, means suppose I'm giving 0.3 volt over here, and let me take silicon material. Then over here, how much voltage is there? 0.7 volt. So obviously this 0.3 volt and 0.7 volt both are creating their field intensity in opposite direction. So it will reduce. Exactly if I'm applying 0.7 volt, what happen? Both are equal and opposite, so they are cancel out each other, and the depletion region will become almost negligible over here, and so that the movement of electron can be very fast. Okay, as the width of depletion region is reduced, this electron, there is a high chance of for the electron to cross this N to P region, right? Now suppose this electrons is having high kinetic energy and is able to cross it. What happened? it will immediately get attracted to this positive terminal, and then again here it is repelled because of negative. So in this way the current constitutions will start, current can start to flow. And as there is no depletion region in this, current can easily cross this junction, and the more and more current will start to flow. So in forward bias condition, diode is going to allow the current. In forward bias condition, diode is going to allow the current. Now what happens if I just change the polarity to reverse? This is minus and this is plus. Then what happens? Due to negative polarity, and here it is positive polarity, so it will move in this direction, and because of attraction, similarly this is negative polarity and it is connected with positive polarity, so all electrons will pushed in this direction. So what happened? This width of depletion region is going to be increased. Width of depletion region is going to be increased, and if it is increased, then this electron will require more kinetic energy, and if it has not that much of kinetic energy, it's very difficult to cross this junction. So due to presence of some minority carriers only, a minimum current is flowing in the reverse bias condition, and that is known as that is negligible actually, right? So ultimately in reverse bias condition, the diode cannot allow the current up to certain voltage. But if you are increasing this voltage to 50 or 60 volt, means very high, then this junction is breakdown, and we have high amount of current can flow in the reverse bias, and that will damage your diode. Okay. Yes, so let us just look at this point for forward bias condition. As barrier potential is exceeded, the majority charge carrier now shows the movement across the junction, and this movement of charge carriers are overcoming the barrier potential that generates the current, and this current is known as majority current. So moment this barrier potential is removed, when it is removed, in the silicon case, if your supply voltage is equal to 0.7, and in case of germanium, if it is 0.3, then this junction is completely removed, barrier potential is completely removed, okay? And at that time, the resistance offered by the junction becomes automatically zero. And thus forward current now starts flowing through the device. When we externally provide the potential to the device in such a way that P is connected with negative terminal like this, and N is connected with the positive terminal, this is known as reverse bias condition. When reverse potential is applied, the holes from P side experience the attraction from negative terminal, as I told you. So it is moving on this direction, and this one is moving on this direction, right? So width of depletion region is going to be increased, and along with this potential barrier is also increased. So field intensity, width of depletion region, and the barrier potential VB is also, these all three are increased, and this takes a device to non-conducting states. That's why I told you that in this case diode is not going to allow the current. However, due to minority carriers present in both the side, a very small amount of current flows, and that is known as that is negligible. Okay, this small current through the device is known as reverse leakage current, and that is independent of barrier potential and depends only on the temperature and construction of device. So here finally we have the operating characteristic. This is known as VI characteristic of PN junction diode. VI characteristic of PN junction diode. This is forward, and this one is reverse. Okay, this is reverse. So you can see on the forward, right now consider the silicon atom. So as you are increasing the voltage level, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, then small amount of current due to the as the width of depletion region is reduced, this current is increased up to 0.7, slightly it is increased, but after this the change in current is drastical. You can see, because now your junction means barrier is not there, it will automatically disappear because of this voltage. This voltage is known as knee voltage. Remember, this voltage is known as KNEE, knee voltage. And in the reverse condition, you can see this much of current is due to the minority carriers. As you increase the reverse voltage, constant current is there, and that is minimum. It's almost negligible. But if you are going more and more voltage, then what happens? That junction is going to be break down, and in the reverse condition also we have more current is flowing. So that is the indication that your diode is going to be damaged. Okay, so let us keep up to this. Next time we will see the application of diode. So what we have completed the one numerical of chapter number 7, and with that we have already completed the chapter, and chapter number 3, and today we have started chapter number 7. In that we have taken some brief idea about semiconductor materials, right? And then we have started the PN junction diode, in which we have seen its definition, symbol, construction, its operating characteristic in forward and reverse bias condition. Okay, and we have seen all three modes of operation: unbiased, forward bias, and reverse bias. Now, if you have any doubt or any query in this session, you can please ask. Please do not leave the session. I will give you the Google Form link. I hope all of you have submitted your assignment on Google Classroom. Don't leave the session. I'm going to give you the Google Form link. Yes, all of you can find the Google Form link into the chat box. Please submit your response.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Will you give us link or is like just to write an inbox?
I got it. I got your number.
Okay, thank you.
Those who have completed and submitted the response, they can please leave the class. Okay, everyone, thank you for attending this session. I'm going to end the meeting.